Now, when I was starting out my lifting journey, my parents wouldn't let me have creatine. They thought it was unnatural, they thought it was a drug, yada yada yada. So I'm making this video so that future generations, you guys, you can get into lifting and you can show this video to your parents and they'll understand that creatine is totally safe and worth having. By the end of this video, I hope that you not only allow your son or your daughter to take creatine, but you even consider taking yourself. Now, that's a bold claim, so let me start. What is creatine? Now, creatine is a non-essential amino acid. Amino acids are simply the building blocks of proteins in your body, and non-essential means that your body can produce it on its own, granted in very small amounts. Now, your kid is probably showing you this video because they're interested in creatine's capacity in the gym, but it's of course worth noting that creatine has a bunch of other positive effects that are outside of the sphere of building muscle, and these are all clinically proven in trials. So, namely, I want to talk about IQ, memory, improved blood control, bone density support, neuroprotection both in injury as well as neurodegenerative diseases, and finally a potential antidepressant effect. Now, creatine is not a drug, it's not unnatural. Not only can your body create it, you get it in meat and eggs and dairy and a whole bunch of other foods as well. So all you're doing by supplementing it is making it so you don't have to eat 2.5 pounds of salmon a day to get your clinical dose. You can just have a little scoop in your water and be on your way. So it just adds this ease of use and this consistency that you wouldn't be able to get if you're trying to get from Whole Foods. Now, of course, you guys are parents. I know exactly where your brain goes. You're probably thinking, it's fine that my son has a little bit of creatine in his glass of milk. It's fine that my daughter has a little bit of creatine in her eggs, but is supplementing not dangerous? I'm now having 10 times the amount I'd have in an omelet. This has to have some adverse effects. So to answer that, we have to look at the studies. Now, the big study to look at here is this 2005 study that covered 26,000 people, 13,000 placebo, 13,000 creatine, for 14 years, and this was at a 5-gram dose, and they found absolutely no adverse effects. And it's of course worth noting that 26,000 people for 14 years is a gold mine. That is like the creme de la creme, the chef's kiss when it comes to studies. That is an amazing, amazing piece of literature to look through because it gives us as definitive results as you can get with the scientific method. Now, that study is of course just looking at the long-term effects, so there's no problem, but short-term, when you consume creatine, you have a little bit of stomach bloatness, especially if you take it on an empty stomach. So the way to get around that, of course, is like make sure you have a little bit of food in your stomach and take it with like a fast digesting carb like honey or sugar or liquid IV or orange juice or whatever it is, just so you're not running your stomach on empty. It's also worth noting that the International Society of Sports Nutrition not only considers creatine safe, but it's actually one of the only supplements they recommend people taking. Alright, now that we've covered that creatine is safe, let's talk about how it actually works in your body. So for your muscles, when your creatine stores are filled, it means that it has an increased regeneration of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and that's the molecule that gives your muscles energy. And by doing so, it means that you have a little bit more endurance in the gym. So instead of being able to get 8 reps on an exercise, you can now get 10. And by doing 10 reps instead of 8 for the next 30 workouts, you've now built strength. But all creatine is doing is it's pushing along your natural production of muscle gain and strength. It's not actually doing any of it for you. It simply allows you to push yourself a little bit harder in your workouts. Now, another thing creatine does is it allows your muscles to be more hydrated. So when you start taking it, you may notice that you're more thirsty, you might drink more water, and you also might gain 5 to 10 pounds of water weight. But again, it's all going into your muscles, so this is very different from the water weight you're used to, which is subcutaneous, meaning under your skin, and that makes you look bloated, and that's related to glycogen. But what this actually does is it makes your muscles appear bigger, which actually makes you look leaner because now you're stretching out the fat and glycogen on top of your muscles more. So it makes you look leaner, it makes you look more jacked. And again, this is just hydrating your muscles. You're not actually gaining lean contractile tissue, but it is a good positive effect, and do not be scared at all about the term water weight, because in this regard, it's actually a really good positive, at least for your appearances, and for your health, it makes no difference at all, really. Except for, of course, the endurance capacity we talked about earlier. Now, speaking of things I talked about earlier, I mentioned the laundry list of positive effects that creatine has, and they're all true, but what I really want to dial in on is brain function, and creatine has been shown to increase IQ, attention span, memory, and the thing that I find most important is it actually mitigates your chance of developing Alzheimer's or dementia. And I have some really close family members who are far along in dementia, and I find the ability of it to potentially mitigate that even just a little bit far more important than the effects on muscle growth, and just a reason to take it in its own right. Like, creatine is an amazing, and it's for your whole body. It's not just for your muscles. It's not just for weightlifters. It's really a supplement that I believe everybody, void of course people with pre-existing kidney conditions, should be taking. And I'm saying that without bias. I don't sell creatine. I don't have a link for somebody else's creatine. I'm not going to recommend you a brand in this video. I don't care. The point is, creatine itself is just a really genuinely good compound for your health, and it's really cheap. and I really do recommend that everybody takes it. Now, there are different types of creatine. They don't really matter all, except for dosages. All it is creatine is a molecule, and they're bound to another molecule. Now, creatine monohydrate is the most common form of creatine, and mono means one, hydrate is water. It's literally just creatine, H2O bound together. It's the most bioavailable kind of, I don't know, people kind of debate those things online. It just doesn't matter. Literally, all that's going to change between the form of creatine you have is the dose. And for creatine monohydrate, that comes out to 5 grams per day. Now, you might hear about a loading phase, and this is because if you have 5 grams a day, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for your creatine stores to fully fill up. So people will instead opt to take 20 grams for a week or 10 grams for 2 weeks. And you can do that. I wouldn't personally recommend it. Like, literally, the only side effect of creatine is like a little bit of stomach upsetness or bloatedness. And taking 4 times the recommended dose, you're kind of just asking for a stomach ache. And you, of course, mitigate this by breaking your dose up into 4 or 5 gram dosages. But then, like, it's already hard enough to remember to take your supplements once a day, let alone 4 times. So, I don't know. I would just recommend you guys take 5 grams and don't really worry about it. Just put it in the background and you'll have benefits. But again, these benefits aren't anything earth-shattering. It's a supplement. You already have it in your food. You can't expect a drastic shift from taking more of something you're already taking. So the effects are subtle, but they are in your benefit, and they don't come at too much of a cost, which is about 15 cents per day if you buy in bulk, or if you just go to a store and you buy a little bit, it's often around 50 cents per dose. But even then, it's like, that's an eighth of a cup of coffee, man. Now with that, I've said pretty much everything that there is need to know. Now if you have any additional questions, just leave them in the comments. I'm really good about replying. I'll probably respond within a day or two. But I really appreciate you guys for watching, and I don't know if you're still a parent or if you're the kid, but I would really appreciate you guys consider subscribing. I just started YouTube. I have like 8 videos out. I'm not very good at this yet. The production quality is subpar to say the least, but if you think I can get along, I would really appreciate you guys subscribing. But if not, that's totally fine too. Just have a wonderful day. That's literally all that matters. Anyway, love you guys.